Tonight marks 1 month since that deadly incident in Eloy. For years, the National Transportation Safety Board's been calling for more oversight in this industry.
Arizona's family investigative reporter Amy Culler has been looking into this since that crash in Eloy. And what's behind the concern here?
Well, the NTSB really wants more oversight and regulation of this industry, but they can only investigate crashes and recommend changes. It's up to the FAA and Congress to act on them. And on most of this, they haven't.
They often start at dawn, filling balloons with air, preparing for this moment when they take flight. In photos from the basket, it's easy to see the appeal. For a few $100, the view is pretty amazing. That's how Rosemarie Gregorio's ride in Marana started. Her daughter bought tickets for her parents as an anniversary gift. The ride quickly turned tragic.
We hit some cables, electrical cables, and the balloon caught fire. And I passed out. The next thing I remember, the balloon was dragging on the ground.
She calls her husband Thomas the love of her life. 11 people were on that balloon that April day in 2005. The NTSB's final report found the basket hit several boulders along the side of mountains. Thomas was killed. Rosemarie, one of 3 others, seriously injured.
My whole body was black and blue for months.
This crash was one of 30 the NTSB investigated in Arizona since 2000. You might remember this close call from December in North Phoenix. The balloon with 9 people on board came down on a light pole. The most recent accident was in Eloy back in January. 4 people were killed, including the pilot. The sole survivor suffered critical injuries.
The standards are, I'm not going to say they're unsafe, but they're a little lower than some of the other areas out there.
Anthony Brickhouse, an aviation expert, explains the NTSB has been calling for more oversight of this industry for nearly 2 decades. Hot air balloons fall under Part 91, what's known as Revenue Passenger Carrying Operations. Scenes like this, a balloon on fire in Albuquerque in 2008 after it crashed into power lines. In Virginia in 2014, a balloon caught fire, killing all 3 people on board.
But it took until 2016, the deadliest hot air balloon crash in U.S. history, to really put the spotlight on the industry. 16 people, including the pilot, were killed in Lockhart, Texas, when the balloon struck power lines. Now, the pilot, Skip Nichols, had served 2 prison sentences for drug and alcohol-related offenses and had several prescription drugs in his system at the time of the crash.
This is figure out what the gaps are in your oversight and address them.
The NTSB was so concerned, they commissioned this report on the issue. It came out in 2021. It recommends closing loopholes, developing national safety standards, and a database for all of these operators.
This should be a matter of just taking action to ensure.
This was Jennifer Homendy, an NTSB board member, now chair of the agency, back then calling on the FAA and Congress to act. Yet to date, only 1 recommendation from the report on the Lockhart crash has been adopted. It requires balloon pilots to have additional medical clearance, or what's known as a second-class medical.
If you have people on board, you should definitely be of a certain level of help.
Arizona's Family Investigates found records that show the pilot in the Eloy crash did have a medical certification. It's a move the Balloon Federation of America, or BFA, a trade group that advocates for the ballooning industry, remains opposed to.
We have people that have been flying safely for 20, 30 years, 40 years. But now they're in their 50s and 60s in some cases, and they have to go for the very first time to try to get an FAA second-class medical. And that's not an easy process.
They say more regulation isn't the answer.
You cannot mandate attitude. You cannot mandate decision and judgment and decision-making process.
We should take this opportunity to strengthen safety for all passengers.
This was Chairwoman Homendy back in February of last year, again calling for change.
What do you think it'll take to finally make the FAA act on this?
Well, what we don't want to have happen is to need to have more accidents.
Why should people die for somebody's mistake? that could probably be corrected or improved.
Now, we reached out to the FAA on all this. They pointed us to their response to the NTSB's recommendations back in 2022, saying they'd conducted more than 7,000 surveillance inspections on these Part 91 air tour operators, and that about 480 of them resulted in follow-up activity, noting, quote, it fulfills the requirements and intent of their safety recommendation.
We see hot air balloons all over the place. They're launching all the time when the weather's appropriate for it. If people still do want to book a ride on a hot air balloon, which I think they do, what is the advice? Do the experts have any advice when it comes to safety?
Well, looking through the research, it really appears that the FAA inspectors are doing most of these inspections at events or shows. So if you want to take one of these rides, it's important that you probably go to one of those shows to take that ride, because at these individual locations, we found that there are not really many inspections going on.
All right, so something like do your own homework.
Exactly.
Wow. What about the Eloy crash? Any update on that one?
At this point, it remains unclear what caused that crash. We looked into the balloon itself. It appears that it was, as the NTSB would call it, airworthy, meaning it had been inspected within the last 100 hours rather, of flight. So there's not any, red flag at this point. So, and these investigations can take upwards of a year or more.
Yeah, there was nothing obvious in that
No,
preliminary
yeah.
investigation that came out a couple weeks ago, but I know you'll stay on top of it, Aim. Thanks.
Informative report, thank you.